Sometimes the universe has a way of serving you irony on a silver platter, and this story, it's exactly that kind of twist. Picture this, a white businessman, Mr. Anthony Pearson, sitting in first class, jaw-dropping as Jasmine Washington, a black woman he just tried to get removed from first class, walks confidently right past him to take her seat. And over the intercom, "This is your captain speaking." Yeah, that happened. Jasmine's alarm went off at 4:30 a.m. Not unusual for her at 32, she was one of the rare black female commercial airline captains in the country. Proud, but carrying the weight of being a first in spaces that weren't built with her in mind. She went through her morning routine, coffee brewing, flight plans reviewed, thoughts drifting back to her childhood, a little girl from South Atlanta who dreamed of flying the skies. "They'll never let someone like you fly those planes," her high school counselor once told her. That stuck, but so did her determination. Her dad, a former Air Force mechanic, called it daily ritual. They joked about pre-flight checklists and schedules, the way they bonded over their shared love for aviation. But the news had been grim. Another story about a black passenger removed from first class, just because of who they were, not what they paid. Jasmine knew the drill. Looks and skin color mattered more than credentials sometimes. 14 years in the cockpit, and people still didn't expect to see her there. Dressed casually but professionally for her commuter flight to San Francisco, jeans, burgundy blouse, black blazer, she packed her captain's uniform carefully, ready for the big London flight ahead. Her first officer, Tyler Simmons, was one of the few colleagues who never questioned her. She upgraded herself to first class on the commuter flight, a perk that kept her sane on those long days. At the airport, Jasmine met another black female pilot, Ayanna, a rare sight that felt like a small victory just by itself. They exchanged encouragement, reminding each other that the skies belonged to them, too. Boarding first class, Jasmine took her window seat, ignoring the sideways glances. Samantha, a flight attendant who knew her well, greeted her warmly. But then Anthony Pearson sat down beside her. Expensive suit, flashing Rolex, and an air of entitlement. He noticed Jasmine's casual attire, her presence next to him, and immediately decided he didn't belong there. When Samantha brought their drinks, Anthony cut in loudly for sparkling water, clearly annoyed by the familiarity between Jasmine and the crew. He stared at her with suspicion, asking if she was in the industry, as if the idea was laughable. Jasmine kept it simple. Yes. Anthony, who flew over 100,000 miles a year, claimed he'd never seen her on this route and insisted there had been a mistake with the seating. Samantha confirmed the flight was full, and Jasmine was exactly where she belonged. Anthony didn't back down, demanding to see Jasmine's boarding pass like she was some sort of imposter. The tension escalated quickly. Anthony loudly accused Jasmine of being out of place, his words dripping with unspoken prejudice. Other passengers noticed. Some discreetly recorded the scene. Dr. Thomas Johnson, a black neurosurgeon seated nearby, spoke up, calling out Anthony's discrimination and defending Jasmine's right to be there. Anthony scoffed at the intervention, but when the lead flight attendant, Carlos Rivera, came over and backed up Jasmine's seating, Anthony threatened to call security, convinced Jasmine had bypassed security protocols. Jasmine stayed calm, reminding him she was an airline employee with full privileges. Anthony's tone grew darker, making veiled threats about airport security waiting for her on arrival. Jasmine met his gaze, cool and unshaken, calling out his behavior as harassment. The cabin was watching now, some passengers clearly siding with Jasmine, others whispering in disbelief. Anthony eventually fled to the restroom to escape the growing disdain. Dr. Johnson checked on Jasmine, who admitted sadly that this wasn't the first time she'd faced someone like Anthony. Anthony tried a new tactic, loudly complaining to nearby passengers about security on premium cabins, but Jasmine focused on her tablet, ignoring the provocation and quietly texting her co-pilot about possible issues on arrival. What Anthony didn't realize was how badly this was about to backfire. When they landed in San Francisco, security officers awaited, and when Jasmine approached, the recognition was instant. Captain Washington. Anthony's confident facade cracked. The officers confirmed Jasmine was the legitimate captain for the next flight to London. The humiliation was public and complete. Some passengers applauded. Anthony stammered apologies, blaming security concerns, but Jasmine called out his assumptions as racist and disruptive. She walked away with her head held high, while Dr. Johnson smiled and told her, "That was magnificent." But the story didn't end there. Anthony's connecting flight was the very one Jasmine would captain. At the gate, he saw her in full uniform, 4 gold stripes on her sleeves. Wings gleaming the reality he tried to deny. He scrambled for excuses, then was pulled aside by Philip Dawson, the airline's operations manager, who informed him of the complaints filed against him, the investigations, and potential consequences. Boarding the flight to London, Anthony sat uncomfortably, surrounded by passengers who had witnessed the earlier confrontation. Walter Green, a distinguished black businessman, sat beside him and gently challenged Anthony's assumptions, sharing his own experiences with prejudice in high places. Meanwhile, Jasmine expertly handled the transatlantic flight, even navigating moderate turbulence with calm precision, showing the kind of professionalism Anthony never expected. Then, a sudden medical emergency threw the cabin into crisis. A passenger suffered cardiac arrest. Dr. Johnson immediately stepped up to help, and Jasmine quickly diverted the plane to Iceland for emergency landing. The cabin was tense but orderly, passengers united by the gravity of the moment. Anthony watched, slowly realizing the woman he disrespected was not only the captain, but the leader who saved a life that day. The landing was smooth, and as medical teams boarded, passengers applauded the respect for Jasmine's leadership clear. Anthony's world had shifted, the arrogance stripped away by direct experience. During the layover, Anthony faced his own reckoning. Memories of his upbringing, his inherited biases, the way he had lived unchallenged in his bubble, all came flooding back. Walter's words echoed in his mind. Growth is uncomfortable. That's how you know it's happening. 6 months later, Anthony stood before his company's leadership, candidly recounting the incident, acknowledging his blind spots and the necessity of confronting them. He spoke about the value of diversity and inclusion not just as a moral obligation, but as a driver of innovation and success. Meanwhile, Jasmine inspired the next generation, speaking at a predominantly black high school in Atlanta, telling young girls to claim their space to prove the doubters wrong every day. She led mentorship programs connecting aspiring women of color with aviation careers, breaking barriers one flight, one story, one life at a time. And somewhere down the road, their paths would cross again, 2 people changed by a single flight, a single confrontation, and a shared commitment to change. This story isn't just about one passenger or one captain. It's about all of us confronting the assumptions we carry, learning to see each other for who we really are, not who we expect them to be. Excellence is the best answer to prejudice, but it takes courage to stand your ground. And sometimes, it takes an emergency at 30,000 feet to open eyes and hearts. So what do you think? Have you ever faced someone challenging your right to be where you are, or challenge someone else's assumptions? Drop your thoughts below. Like this story, if you believe Jasmine's grace and professionalism made all the difference. And subscribe for more real stories of courage, change, and breaking barriers. Because sometimes the sky belongs to everyone, and it's up to us to keep it that way.